Chad Pergram with us? I think he might be plugged in.
Brett, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Chad, this is something, as we're looking, and they're kind of whispering over here. I'm guessing they're going to try to move one of the three others, but what they have to give up to do that, to stay on a first ballot, as it stands right now, he is shy of 218, and it would have to go to a second ballot. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's our understanding right now, and this is right on the edge. Again, this is kind of an algebraic equation that they do in real time. The reason we don't know the actual number is because they are tallying right now and double-checking with the tally clerks on the dais there in the front of the House chamber to determine how many people cast votes by name. That's going to be very important because you had three members who voted for someone by name who was not Mike Johnson or Hakeem Jeffries. When you look at the list here, you had a vote for Tom Emmer. You get the, from Thomas Massey. You get the idea here, and that's the problem. So can they go back and switch those votes, or do they have to go to a second ballot? Just before the roll call vote started, Brett, you had Tim Burchett, the Republican congressman from Tennessee, who certainly had some disagreements with Mike Johnson and was somebody who was a big question mark, indicate that he thought that this would go to a second ballot no matter what, and then he voted for Mike Johnson. He was somebody who was unclear about where he was going to vote. You had Ralph Norman, the Republican from South Carolina, who did not vote for Mike Johnson. So you see how this is a problem there when, he could only lose one vote, that this would immediately kick it to a second ballot. Now, if this does go to a second ballot, and keep in mind right now that the House is not constituted. They can't swear in the members. There's no speaker until they close this vote. And at that point, then, if they do determine that they have somebody who's gotten the majority of those casting ballots for somebody by name, I will say that again, that is the threshold. You must get a majority of those casting ballots for somebody by name. So under usual circumstances, with 434 members, Mike Johnson came in at 219. He could go to 218. If that turns out to be, in fact, the magic number, he's probably short.
Chad, can you explain what might be happening right now?
Yeah, well, right now what they're doing is the tally clerks. You have Brian Stile, the Republican from Wisconsin, who is the chair of the House Administration Committee. He is alongside Virginia Fox, a Republican from Virginia. You have Joe Morelli, a Democrat from New York. He's the ranking Democrat on the House Administration Committee. They're kind of checking the crosstabs here and making sure that everybody has recorded their vote and that everybody is on the same page. In other words, there's no room for error. And then they will come back and they will announce whether or not we have a speaker or not. Now, there are two
let me interrupt
philosophies
here, Chad.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
We're getting word that all of the holdouts casted votes by name, meaning that it would be 218 as the magic number. Obviously, you don't hear it until the clerk says it, but just doing our own math, our tally on air is where things stand, and that means it's short of the 218 needed, which is perhaps why there are all these conversations going on here. And the vote is open. It's not a closed vote as of yet, and one of these three could change their mind, I suppose.
Conceivably, yes. It's not closed until they close it. There's no time on this. And what you have to look for, if they do, in fact, determine that they have not gotten a speaker on this vote, the two philosophies that I've been told here, and this comes from a couple of senior Republican sources, is one thought, people have made their protest, and they'll go to a second vote later tonight or later this afternoon, and then we will have a speaker. Or if these people are dug in so deeply, this is going to be a Saturday or Sunday project. And if this does go to a second ballot, I want to remind everybody how rare this is. Obviously, we had the 15 rounds over 5 days 2 years ago before they elected Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House. Brett, it was 100 years, 1923, with the re-election of Speaker Frederick Gillette from Massachusetts, a Republican. That was the last vote until 2 years ago that went to even a second ballot. It took 4 ballots with Frederick Gillette in 1923. So if this goes to a second ballot, we're starting to establish new precedents in the way that they elect a Speaker of the House.
And just to be clear, Chad, we went to 216. That's the official vote. He got 216, which would be too shy of the 218 majority. Clyde was counted twice in our tally. 216 is the official tally now. And we're going to come to the end here, and it's going to say basically there is not a Speaker of the House currently in the United States.
That's right.
House of Representatives, and this will go to a second ballot. So here begins this process.
And Brett and Martha, the other thing to note about all this is kind of what Republicans feared. They went through that 5-day nightmare 2 years ago. They didn't have a speaker for 22 days in October of 2023 before electing Mike Johnson. And this is the precise delay that they talked about with this narrow majority before they can start to implement their agenda. And what is passed is prologue, the idea that you're going to have this narrow majority in the House of Representatives anyway. And what does this mean when they're going to start debating budget reconciliation and tax policy and the border and all these issues that they say we're going to do, but if you don't have the votes even to get a speaker, and then certainly that's going to forecast kind of these very tough votes throughout the next 2 years, that every vote is going to come down to something like this because it's hard to get that narrow majority on the same page. And this speaker's vote is going to be reflective of that.
Okay, so what's the time frame here? What'll happen next, Chad?
Well, by rule, the House can't do anything else. They have to elect another speaker. They could conceivably turn right back around and say, OK, we're going to have new nominating speeches. Somebody else will get up and nominate Mike Johnson. Maybe Catherine Clark, the Democratic whip, conceivably would nominate Hakeem Jeffries. And then you start the process all over again. They could also decide maybe to go into recess or call it a day, conceivably. And I was told if they did get to a second ballot, what would happen is that rather than have a full Republican conference meeting, they would probably try to have individual meetings with these members who were holdouts and see what they needed to bring them across the finish line. I should note that tomorrow, the House of Representatives was not scheduled to be in session, but long on the books, and they were very cryptic about this, is that Mike Johnson and the Republican leaders told their members that what they wanted them to go to Fort McNair for an all-day session on budget reconciliation. Now, they had certain discussions planned throughout the day, but I was told by many members that they really didn't think that that's what that was about. That was really to keep people from getting on airplanes and flying home and getting caught in this snowstorm that's coming through the Midwest and the eastern U.S. later this week, so they could keep everybody here and not have them spread to the four winds, and they could actually get the Congress started. So maybe they do that tomorrow if they get a speaker, maybe not. But I'm told that that was really kind of the method behind the madness there of keeping everybody here for Saturday.
Yes, Chad, stand by if you would.